Hey there, folks. Parker Thune here, back with another appetizing round of Breakfast Bites. Taking a look at the 5 biggest questions, in my mind, going into the Sooners' all-important SEC opener Saturday evening against the Vols of Tennessee. Let's dive in and count down to 1 as we go. Question number 5, and this is a pretty obvious one. Can Oklahoma block James Pierce? James Pierce is one of the most talented edge rushers in the nation. This is no secret. And that's going to put a lot on Jacob Sexton at the left tackle spot and particularly Michael Tarquin at the right tackle spot, because I think you certainly trust Sexton out on that left side to be able to, at the very least, hold his own against Pierce. Can the same be expected of Tarquin? It's going to be as stiff a challenge as he has faced in his lengthy collegiate career. He's a 6th-year senior. He's played a ton of ball, but his performance has been moderate through 3 games. Not spectacular, not atrocious, but moderate isn't going to do against an edge rusher like Pierce. Tarquin is going to have to be in peak form, as will Sexton, if they are to keep the pocket clean for Jackson Arnold and allow him the requisite time to be able to find his receivers downfield. Number 4, can the Sooners play clean special teams? And I don't think you really have to worry about Luke Elzinga. He has been steadily excellent ever since taking over last year mid-season as Oklahoma's starting punter. Through the first 3 weeks, regardless of who it's been back there fielding kicks and punts for Oklahoma, there have been some issues cleanly fielding kicks and punts. You'd like to see that get sharpened up. Maybe you don't need any explosive returns to beat Tennessee, but you certainly can't afford any muffs. And one of the things we've been talking about all offseason is the reality that now that you're in the SEC, every little thing matters. Every possession matters. You cannot afford to leave points out on the field. And so if Oklahoma stalls out in opposing territory, can you count on Tyler Keltner to drive the ball through the uprights? He's been, for the most part, pretty solid to this point in the season. 5 of 6. His one miss was kind of an ugly one. It was a hooked 45-yarder against Houston that very nearly proved costly in that football game. But I think there's a lot on Tyler Keltner's shoulders. He's got to be on the money. If his number gets called, if he has to trot out there for a kick, it's got to sail between the uprights. Number 3, is Oklahoma's run defense legit? And when we talked to Dusty Dvorak earlier this week, he said, look, I think this is probably the key matchup in this football game. This Oklahoma front 4 or front 7, if you will, against this Tennessee rushing attack, which has been amongst the strongest in the country through 3 weeks. We know there's talent there. Dominic Williams, Ethan Downs, Grayson Halton has been awesome to this point in the year. R. Mason Thomas is coming off a nomination as the Bronco Nagurski National Defensive Player of the Week. You got Danny Stutzman at the linebacker spot. Kendall Dolby returns to play Cheetah after a week out. The talent is there for Oklahoma. The raw ability is there, and it's got to be evident on Saturday. Your best players have to play like your best players in that defensive front 7. Opponents have only averaged 2.2 yards per carry against Oklahoma throughout the 2024 season to date. And I'm not necessarily under the expectation that the Sooners take away the run game from Tennessee entirely, but if you can make things difficult on them, if you can make it such that they can't get away with running the ball on 1st and 2nd down, making some headway, and setting Nico Iamaleava up with manageable 3rd down scenarios, then I think you put yourself in very good position to take this game down to the 4th quarter and ultimately win it, especially if the crowd's behind you. Number 2, is Nick Anderson more than a body on Saturday? We know he's going to be back. We know he will return to action. But what does that mean tangibly? What does that mean in terms of production, running the entire route tree, moving the chains on 3rd down, taking attention off of Deion Burks on the other side and Bauer Sharp over the middle? If Nick Anderson is more than just a guy that's out there to say you got him back out there, if Nick Anderson can be an actual factor in the passing game on Saturday, and though they shouldn't, there'll be many that take that for granted, that is going to drastically impact and improve Oklahoma's ability to move the ball effectively and spread out this Tennessee defense, as I see it. And as we get to number one, I kind of took the quarterbacks out of the picture here because, look, I think we all understand it's important. If Jackson Arnold outplays Nico, Oklahoma probably wins the game. If Nico outplays Jackson Arnold, Tennessee probably wins the game. We know that there's a lot on the shoulders of those two young quarterbacks. So I kind of excluded them from this top five, fair or unfair. But number one for me is, could this be the night where the rest of the nation becomes familiar with Zach Alley's game? Because I know this for a fact. The Sooners have been toying with some looks on the practice field that the rest of the outside world has not seen yet. And I think they will be prepared on Saturday night to throw some looks at Nico Iamaleava that he has not seen yet. And look, Venables' fingerprints are all over this defense, right? That should not be disregarded by any means. But as Venables himself has acknowledged, Alley is the one calling the shots on Saturdays. I trust that Venables, in collaboration with his defensive staff as a whole, is going to come to the table with a strong game plan to be able to counter the things that Tennessee does well offensively. But the execution is largely up to Zach Alley. And, okay, ultimately the execution is up to the players, sure, but I think you're following the point. We've seen many a Brent Venables masterclass over the years. And admittedly, this is in the latter days, but the game that always springs to mind for me is the 2018 national title game in which Venables and his Clemson unit absolutely confounded Tua Tagovailoa and an Alabama offense that had had no trouble with anybody all year and came into that season undefeated. They could get nothing going all night long. I don't think Alley has to be 2018 Brent Venables in order for Oklahoma to win this football game. But might this be the evening where we get a virtuoso performance defensively for Oklahoma, and that makes the rest of the country collectively turn their heads and go, oh, maybe that's why Brent Venables went out of his way to hire a 31-year-old guy from Jacksonville State to call his defense. Maybe he knew what he was doing there. Ultimately, we'll all find out together, and there are many more angles and storylines to discuss between now and Saturday, and we will continue to do so here on the OU Insider YouTube channel and, of course, over on OUInsider.com. I would hope you would subscribe to this channel, and I would also hope that you would subscribe for just a few bucks a month over at OUInsider.com to get all the insider information, all the exclusive insights on your favorite football team. But if not, subscribing to this channel is completely free. We would greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you later in the week with an Under the Visor pregame podcast, live in-game coverage, and much, much more. So stay tuned and stay tapped in to OU Insider in the days ahead. Take it easy, folks. I'll see you next week.